everyone. Today we'll be starting our April webinar series with our prevention consultant, Bryan Valdez. He will be presenting the topic, the nervous system reset, tools to calm anxiety and overwhelm. Some information about him. Bryan Valdez is a prevention consultant at Prevention Links, serving the NJ4S Union Hub. He's a recent graduate of Rutgers University, where he earned a Bachelor of Science in Public Health. Bryan is continuing his education at Rutgers and is currently pursuing a Master of Public Health with a concentration in global public health. Previously, Bryan interned with Prevention Links at the Elizabethport Community Center, where he worked with both youth and senior groups. During his internship, he provided personal guidance and education on topics such as mental health and food security. Bryan wishes to continue providing guidance and education towards others, as that is how he managed to learn about certain topics that are still prominent today. All right, and with that being said, I will let him take over.
All right, thank you. So yes, as we were previously talking about, today we're going to talk about the nervous system reset, and we're going to provide you tools to calm anxiety and once you're overwhelmed as well in certain situations. So the table of context, what we're going to go over. First, we're going to do an introduction. We're going to understand the nervous system, since the nervous system, it could be a little bit complicated to understand for some. And then recognize signs of stress and overwhelmness. And then we're going to talk about why dysregulation happens to us and what type of strategies and practices that we can do. And while we're learning these practices, we're also going to do a guided practice so you guys can be more knowledgeable on what to do in certain situations and how to regulate yourself when you're overwhelmed or stressed. So a quick check-in, you guys can put this in the chat, but one word for how you feel today, because everybody experiences stress differently. There is no right or wrong feeling. This is a space to learn and not to judge. So understanding yourself is a good way to understanding if you're stressed, overwhelmed, if you're feeling happy, or whatever type of emotions you're feeling. So I'll say one word for how I feel today will be enthusiastic. Why enthusiastic specifically? Well, I'm enthusiastic to, introduce this topic to others and, get a feel for the room as well when we're talking about, tools to calm ourselves down when it comes to being anxious or being overwhelmed as well. So now we're going to talk about the nervous system. What is the nervous system? Basically, in simple words, the nervous system controls how our body responds to certain situations. It sends signals between our brain and our body and reacts automatically to keep us safe. So there's two examples that I like to provide for this. One of the examples is the nervous system reaction is similar to like a superhero sense, like Spider-Man, where he gets his spidey senses once he senses danger. So that's how I connect the nervous system, because it's telling our brain and our body to react to keep us safe. And then the second example that I like to use is when you're nervous driving in heavy rain, your body is being, cautious about every single danger that's in your vicinity. So your body and your brain reacts to keep you automatically safe. And, this nervous system just helps us keep us safe, but also helps us keep us more prepared for certain situations as well. So when we talk about the signs of stress and being overwhelmed, we're talking about these four types of signs. The first type of signs is overthinking and racing thoughts. This can be when an individual's overthinking a situation. This can be overthinking the exam a student might take, or overthinking an argument that they could have had with their friends. These racing thoughts could affect a particular individual and help and probably make them more stressed and overwhelmed about the situation. And then we can use the example of just the individual being stressed out about a big exam that's coming up. So this individual in other scenarios could have a difficulty focusing on watching a movie or just conversating with friends, because now that individual or that student is now focused on just the exam and just the bad grades that they could potentially have if they don't study enough. And then this could also make the student feel irritated or emotional. How so? Because with all this stress and overwhelmed from one particular exam, now the student feels like it has to focus on this exam, or else, they won't pass, they won't achieve the goals that they want. So any single instances can make them feel irritated or emotional. Irritation could be just loud noises in the house, or just being in, uncomfortable situations that's delaying their time studying. So now that individual could be more irritated. And then the last one that we talk about for the signs of stress and overwhelmness is low energy or physical attention. So still using the example of the student. Now that student could have low energy because now that student is focusing their, they're sacrificing their sleep to have more time for studying. And then once they wake up, they have low energy or physical tension from just sitting down or just from having like 4 or 5 hours of sleeping. So stress can show up in both your mind and your body. And these are some of the signs of stress and overwhelmness. There's another types of signs out there, but these are more of the general to help us feel more, cautious when we're noticing signs of overwhelmness and stress. So now, dysregulation, why it happens and how. So basically, an example that I like to give out is when your body just keeps running and running without a break. So basically, that's the definition of dysregulation and why it happens. When stress builds up without a break, your system can become overwhelmed. And this is something that happens to many individuals that are stressed or overwhelmed. Basically, they keep on, putting the pressure on themselves when it comes to studying or just doing exercises or just doing something to achieve their goals. So this usually happens because of the first example that we're talking about, the academic or the vocational pressure and responsibilities that they might have. Or the second reason why this could happen is because the social stress and expectations. Probably they're expecting a high grade in order to, get honor roll. So now that student is just building up himself to become more overwhelmed to achieve these goals. And then the lack of rest and recovery time. So still the example of the student studying for a big exam. The lack of rest and recovery time is essential because now that student that's, studying 24/7 has lack of rest and recovery time. And this makes him have more stress build up. And then constant stimulation. The constant stimulation could just be, individuals speaking over him or just a lot of loud noises that's irritating the individual. And then sometimes, this connects to physical symptoms, all the dysregulation examples that we were talking about, like academic, social, constant stimulation, and lack of rest. They could also connect to physical symptoms. Some individuals' physical symptom is that they can be sick from all this stress. They can have a headache, hard time of recovering from their muscles if they're sitting, for a particularly long time. So all this happens because we're stressed or overwhelmed when we are expecting something big. So this connects on why some of us needs to have a nervous system reset. So basically, what is a nervous system reset for some individuals? This is helping, bringing your body back to a calmer state, helping you regain focus and control of your life. It's important to have focus and control in your life because some individuals, they dedicate a large amount of time to studying or just other responsibilities. Now this, makes an imbalance of focus and control. Now they're more focused on the exam instead of other responsibilities such as like probably their job, family, social time, and it makes them lose control of their lives. And then not about removing stress completely. The nervous system reset is about just relaxing your body to bring it to a calmer state. Some people got a lot of stress that can, be affected to them. So this is a great way to, release your body to a calmer state. And for the nervous system reset, the goal is to recover faster, not to avoid stress completely. We all know that stress is, particular and, prevalent in some people's lives. But, this goal is to help us recover faster, not to avoid it. So in the nervous system reset, there's two main states. There's the stress mode, which is fight, flight, or freeze. Calm mode, which is rest, focus, and balance. And this is really important to note because your body shifts between these states on a regular basis. And both are normal and necessary for us to continue our life or just to help us, reset ourselves. So now we're going to talk about the two main states. First, we're going to focus on stress mode, fight, flight, and freeze. So what is this basically? When you're in a stress mode, and your body's in stress mode, this means your body could have a heart rate increase, your breathing becomes faster, your muscle tightens, and you may feel anxious, reactive, or shut down. An example I could provide is when an individual, the rain example now, when an individual is driving in a dangerous state, heavy rain, heavy snowstorms, now your breathing is becoming much faster, your muscles tightening because you may feel anxious, reactive, and your heart rate increases because now you're worried about what's going to happen. So this connects to the stress mode that we were talking about. And then the second state is calm mode, which is rest and regulate. Basically, what does this entitle? Rest and regulate helps us, slow down our breathing. The heart rate, slows down as well. Our body feels more relaxed and calm. And it's easier to focus and think clearly when you're in this calm mode, because now you can think of certain choices to make on a clear state of mind instead of, being nervous, making things in a panic, quick time situation. So the calm mode helps us, rest and regulate our body and helps us feel more relaxed when we're, controlling our lives. So what other tools or strategies that can help us when it comes to stress and anxiety? Basically, regulation strategies and practices that we're going to talk about is breathing techniques, grounding techniques, physical regulation, focus and attention rest as well. Techniques that could be applicable for your day-to-day activities. This is really essential because you can just use any of these techniques that we're about to talk about in a 2-minute setting at most. So the first technique, the grounding technique. Grounding helps us bring your mind out of overthinking and into the present. So how so? This connects to basically like meditation. You focus on your surroundings, you notice what you see and feel, and it brings you to the present moment. It brings you to what's happening right now instead of, what's going on in the future or in the past. So it helps us stay more focused. So now we're going to do your turn. Type in chat 3 things that you can see and 2 things that you can touch. This is really, important for us to do because as we were talking about, grounding techniques helps us feel more focused and in the moment. So I can do this example with you guys as well while you're typing in the chat. So 3 things I can see. Well, basically on this presentation, I can see the yellow font, brain doing a meditation, and then the NJ4S logo. So those are 3 things I can see. And then 2 things I can touch. Well, basically I can touch my desk and then I can touch my water bottle that's right beside me. So this helps us be more grounded and more focused when we're, in the stress activity state. Even simpler movements can help our body let go of stress because we all know stress is stored in the body. Movement helps release tension, like stretching or just like getting up and just taking a walk outside. It helps us release this stress tension that's built up. That's why some individuals have certain physical activities that they like to do to release all these tensions. And then small actions can make a difference. Well, I was talking about some people that like to do physical activity. Well, you might think in your mind, well, I probably might not have a lot of time to do physical activity. So this is why I introduced this aspect to our presentation. So a great physical activity that you guys can do to bring you more focused and more relaxed is take a minute to press your hands together for 10 seconds. So while you guys do that in chat, just press your hands for 10 seconds. I'll count with you. So 1, release that tension. And then you'll feel your hands be more, relaxed. And that's something that you should do, just doing this little activity just helps you release any physical tension that you might have. Or some people just like to do the simple method of just rolling your shoulders to help release the body tension that you might experience. Now this brings us to focus reset. So what's the difference between focus and grounding? Well, focusing helps our attention to quiet our mind. Basically, some individuals like to pay attention to one object that they see in the room. That one object could be just the window, that helps people stay more grounded. And then, some people like to go out to the parks and just sit down and just watch the lake. This is them doing their focus reset. This helps them pay attention to one object. They keep their focus there, and then it helps slow down their thoughts that they might feel. Some individuals could be all stressed and then they have all these thoughts coming into their mind. But now when they sit down and focus on one object, now they can slowly, rethink each thought and make a better choice, I'll say. So this is an activity that you guys can do. So one activity that we were talking about is look at one object near you for 20 seconds and once you do this activity, it really helps you stay more focused on what's going on in the present moment instead of what's going on in your stressed mind. So you guys can pause the video or take a quick second to just focus on one object that's near you. This can be your window. This can literally be the wall as well, because this helps your body and your mind to be more focused and clear when it comes to making decisions or rethinking future choices. So like I said, you guys can pause the video right here and just look at one object that's in your room. The last reset that we were talking about, which is known as breathing reset. This means breathing techniques. So basically, slow controlled breathing helps calm our body in a certain way. Some individuals like to do box breathing. Some individuals like to do a quick in and out breathing. Because breathing out longer than you breathe in signals to your brain that you are safe. So basically, the breathing reset consists of inhaling through your nose and then holding that breath in and then exhaling longer than you inhale. And this breathing reset is a good way of just, helping your body stay more calm and focused, because this breathing technique can be done anywhere. And it can literally be done in a matter of seconds as well as you like. So now we have a breathing reset example that you guys can do. So once that circle comes back, I'm going to guide you guys. So inhale, and then when the circle goes back down, then exhale. This little GIF or picture that I found is really helpful because it helps individuals use their breathing reset technique to be more focused and just release that tension that they might feel. So following this breathing reset picture that we see right here, you guys can just memorize the seconds and just copy it as well once you're in your day-to-day activities. So all these tools that we're talking about, grounding techniques, physical reset, focus reset, and then breathing reset, all these tools you could use before a test or presentation, when feeling overwhelmed, during a conflict. This can be like an argument or just a conflict when you're stressed out or when you can't focus or sleep. And I'll say this is really beneficial when I can't focus or sleep, because sometimes I use the breathing reset to help my mind and body to, reset themselves and be in the present moment. And remember, these tools are the most helpful in real life stressful moments, because we do see these tools be applicable to our day-to-day lives. Sometimes I use the physical reset to just reset my body and release the tension by just taking a quick stroll around the park. And then the breathing technique, as I was talking about, it's a quick way to just reset your mind and body, just breathing in and out on your particular seconds that you prefer. And then the focus technique, sometimes when I'm in a stressed out situation, I like to go outside, just sit down on the bench somewhere and then just focus on one object. This could be like a tree or something. And then the grounding technique, I always like to get myself in reality check. So I notice 3 things I see and then 2 things that I touch. So it helps myself to be more grounded. So a little recap on what we discussed about. So the recap that we talked about is the more you practice these tools that we talked about, the easier it is to become. Oh, wait, let me restart this. So now we're at the recap. So the reason why the recap is important to know about is because the more you practice these tools that we're talking about, such as grounding, focus, physical, or just other types of tools that we were talking about earlier, the easier it is to reset your body. So what does this mean? Just resetting your body on a day-to-day basis and your mind as well helps you feel more grounded and more focused on the present things that's going on, and helps you make more positive choices or healthier choices as well. And it is important to know that stress is a natural response. Stress will always be prominent in our lives, but there's also ways to regulate the stress to help us feel more calm. And remember, calm is a skill that you can practice by yourself or with others as well. What do I mean by with others? So just meditating with others or just doing a physical activity that you guys like to do with others can help you feel more calm. And then the last thing that I would like to say is small actions can make a big difference. How so? So using these types of tools can make a big difference because it could regulate your mind and your body and help you make those positive choices instead of choices that you'll probably be, regretful, or just choices that could seem negative as well to others. So I would like to, share this Wellness Wonderland picture presentation that we.
Thank you very much, Brian, for this very engaging and important presentation on regulation. And thank you to everyone else for tuning in. Our next presentation for April is called Boundaries for Better Mental Health, which will be on April the 23rd at 6 p.m. on a Thursday. So make sure to stay tuned for that if you can. If you enjoyed this presentation, you want to keep up with NJ4S Union Hub, you can just follow us on social media at NJ4S Union. Or if you want to contact us about programming, you can just email us at NJ4SUnion@preventionlinks.org. So thank you again for joining us and have a great rest of your day.